Okay, guys, what's up? It's your boy Carcino here, and let's talk about it. Back in the days, you guys didn't understand. A there used to be rivalries in the sports games when all these guys had star players. Each team there was a star on it. Wasn't all this stacked team stuff. There was actual real rivalries and competition and people thriving. In the NFL and the NBA in the 80s, what they were doing, and I'm only saying the 80s because it probably went over deeper than the 80s. Because I'm quite sure they learned from the elders, who were there before them. But like in the football, for instance, when the playoffs come around the corner, guys are friendly with other players that's on the team. So they'll have other friends on the other team, and certain players would send, like some champagne to the next room, some beers, and actually party with them. To try anything to try to throw them off. And the king of this, from what I heard, was Michael Jordan. Like Michael Jordan was really good for partying somebody out or messing with them mentally. The mental warfare that Michael Jordan played on the court was incredible. Like they were in, I think they were getting ready to go to the playoffs. It wasn't that they needed help. This was early in their careers. I would say around 91, 92, probably on the march to their first title around this time. And I don't know if it was 90 or 92, but there was a card game going on. And they were getting ready to play the 76ers with Barkley on the team or something. And it was like Thump and Bump, Hershey Hawkins, all these guys, they're in there playing cards, and Michael Jordan wanted to play cards with him. Now they were getting ready to start the NBA playoffs. And this was like the end of the regular season or whatever. So Michael and Charles and Rick Mahorn, and Rick comes from the Piston era. Like no fraternizing. Like so he's trying to get Charles, hey, no fraternizing. They're the enemy. Like we might see them in the playoff. So Michael Jordan's like, nah, forget that. They smoking stogies, talking, playing. Charles is like, I'm gonna be in. I'm gonna be in. Don't worry about it, man. Man, you know what we playing in the first round? We gonna sweep them. I ain't finna be going up and getting up early in the morning for a team I already know we gonna sweep. I'm finna have some fun while I'm out here. So they had some girls up there, sent some girls to Charles, everything to hang out with Charles and entertain him. So when they nice and played him again, see, these are things that they couldn't say, is when they were saying Michael was a con artist that time with Van Gundy because he befriends people and then he come out there and kill you. But Mike's like, look, I'm genuinely having a good time. If that just happened to be the case, it just be the case. But I don't need that to beat anybody. But when other athletes, this is like tradition of what they do. Like LT, Lawrence Taylor. Um, I forgot who they played. I think they played the Bills one time, and I think Bruce Smith sent some girls or something on over to his room. Like the next game, they got a playoffs, and and they were already paid for and everything to just show up and go ahead and have fun with the players. And the LT's like, I didn't turn them away either. He's like, I still went out there and killed him, but I ain't turned them women away either. and they paid for. So, this procedure happened a lot, especially in the NFL. One time it happened, it got a player in a lot of trouble because he got too drunk and loud and ended up yelling with security and girls over there. So he ended up in the spotlight for about a half a second in the NBA. People came and cleared it up. But the NBA did an internal investigation to say all of these things. We're gonna have to go and we're gonna have to clean this thing up because there was a whole lot of things going on that was including, betting between players, and they never liked to see betting between players, no matter what the case. And there were a lot of bets. Like I bet 5,000 on a shot. If you hit a shot on me, you get $5,000. It was all kind of stuff like that. And in the NFL, you score a touchdown on me. You score a touchdown on me, boy, I give you $1,200 right now. Yeah, but if you ain't score a touchdown on me, you get 1,200. And it was bonuses for NFL players if they stop people from scoring. Everybody get a bonus this week. The owner gonna give y'all a bonus. This how it was back in the 80s. So it was bounty and all that bunny games and all that stuff. It's too much social media now and corporate sponsorship. It's so much money now that all these little bets that was just fun. The NBA ended up cracking down on it. Mark Jackson and Charles Barkley had bets, when they played the Knicks and Sixers, and every time they come down, Charles hit a shot, and the thing is they put it in the media because they didn't think it was nothing of it. So when they were talking, it was no big deal. They didn't see a problem with what they said. They were just having fun. They got fined by David Stern. They were told them nobody can talk about gambling anymore. And then they explained the situation, what happened with this one player lost a substantial lot of money to another player on another team. And when he lost the bet, he didn't want to pay up. It led to a fight and a whole lot of mess. They ended up having to trade one guy. The owner ended up paying the debt. So there's a lot of things in the NBA that are secrets that never end up leaking out, but they led to changes in the league. And it ended up with law players getting caught up in issues with the law. And your stars, you want them to remain stars, especially if you're making money off of them. So, and the athlete wasn't Michael Jordan, just so we can be clear on that. Wasn't Michael Jordan. So, yeah, there was other people that gambled in the NBA that wasn't Michael Jordan. So this person owed a lot of money to a player. And once that happened, it was a little bit of a melee. And somebody physically tried to, like a family member, cousin of the other NBA player, tried to physically put his hands on the other NBA player and realized there's a reason why this person's in the NBA. He's in shape, and you're just a family member of an NBA basketball player. And it was a situation where the other person felt like he didn't need to pay or the debt was paid already. So that's basically what's the main gist of it. But authorities were called, there was fights, and this is why these rules were put in place. So Mark Jackson and Charles was just the victims of that circumstance once they put it on television. And because they were good friends, so it was really no problem there. Now, here's the situation. Uh, another NBA secret that went down. NBA did an investigation, and it was a great thing that they did because players didn't feel safe sometimes at the airport. When they come in through the airport, like a lot of players when they first was doing the going to the first getting the bags and everything. This is before 9/11, of course, but at the time the NBA players didn't feel kind of safe because fans are just pretending that they're waiting for waiting for their for families and friends, and they don't even have a plane coming in or relatives. They could get see you guys are so young, you probably don't remember. There was a time you could go walk almost all the way to where the people coming off the plane with no ticket. Your family be waiting right there. I'm like, man, you can go all the way into the airport as far as you can. Those days are gone, but you can do that now. You can just get all the way up there with no ticket, no nothing. Just wash yourself all the way up there. So the NBA players didn't feel safe at one point because one fan got too close. He came up there to an NBA player because they were in town to play against his team, and the team is getting off their plane. And as they're approaching, one rude fan got all up in the player's face and started yelling out personal things that were attacking him. So once that happened, you know, deals had to be made and certain type of things had to be done so that they could put some type of security in place for athletes when they come in on a plane that's normally provided for owners or people who own planes, and because the NBA, it was the owners who paid out of their pockets for the planes. So now that everything was policed better with David Stern, they sat down with Rod Thorne and all those great guys, and they made a great decision to increase security for the NBA players at the airport. I mean, it wasn't that many like psychopaths like we have now. Mostly the only thing you had to worry about were NBA players, getting into it with a fan and all of those things. So now there was another situation where you had, oh God, who was it? Oh, the joyride, and NFL players do it, but it was very frequent within the NBA, more than the NFL. NFL players did it too, and when they get their new cars or they get off practice, they be charged with adrenaline and they start racing each other. And Bobby Fields ended up dying in a car wreck doing and playing this highway game, driving fast, and they're trying to avoid each other on the expressway. And he ended up dying from it, the former school teacher. And that ended up changing a whole lot of rules as far as, you know, how they were gonna deal with drinking and driving with NBA players. They came down and cracked down on the rules as far as speeding. They put all these provisions in there, designated drivers at all times, and we can't tell you what to do, but we got to come up with ways to help these young kids prevent themselves. And the NBA done a lot of good with that. So there's a lot of good things and changes that came about because of these incidents. Because I remember the player who suffered so much embarrassment when he played with the Indiana Pacers, and it was such a dark time for the NBA. But it was just terrible. And Malik Sealy, the former Minnesota Timberwolf, who took Kevin Garnett under his wing and just embraced him as a brother. And, he was driving in a car and some drunk guy hit him. Died from chest injuries and head injuries after his car was smashed into by a drunk driver. Everyone was talking about everyone was talking about the Hacker Shack at the time. While people was talking about the Hacker Shack, just ended up happening like later on that night. Very terrible accident. And Kevin Garnett, a lot of these players still remember. But these guys were great, and he helped Kevin Garnett all the way in Minnesota, basically. After going there, he was reborn because he was so embarrassed. He left his playbook. He was young when he played for the Pacers. He left his playbook at the airport, and somebody found it and turned it into the radio station, and they had a rundown of the entire New York Knicks. Like it was just terrible. Somebody that they would do that. He got talked to about it, but he really found his home with Minnesota. So we all remember Malik. So and Lisa, still has to deal with the pain, you know, because he's gone forever. But we'll always remember Malik Sealy. And the crazy drunk driver that hit him, that Asian guy, and he's still arrested for 8 years. So that's how that went. Now the NBA did a great job with that, as far as you don't hear about too many more situations like this. And it took provisions of making sure you call a car, and thanks to Uber and everything else, you don't have to drive drunk anymore. Now they had to really intervene because it started to rear its ugly head, because J.R. Smith from the Cleveland Cavaliers, that you know him as J.R. Spliff, ended up harming a best friend of his and letting him lose his life behind the wheel of a car. And he's very lucky. The Knicks and everybody else wanted to get rid of him. Denver wanted to get rid of him because his alcoholism and all of these things. He had so many tickets. He had suspended licenses. J.R. Smith had the worst traffic record of any driver. Like, how could he ever get a license? Like, who would ever put him behind the wheel of a car and trust it? He got a 90-day sentence. They tried to offer putting him in a rehabilitation for drug and alcohol abuse, to try to get JR some help for substance abuse. And that's how the NBA substance abuse policy started to come in place, and how it got all these revisions and how because of these incidents and people drinking behind the wheel, and they didn't want this for their athletes because it's such a blow to the rest of the team. You remember that Knicks fight with Carmelo and the Knicks? JR was very huge in that one. Then February 7th, JR almost killed Carmelo in a car accident. They tried to cover it up. The NBA said, well, it was a minor car accident, but both players ended up missing the shoot around for the game against the Portland Trail Blazers. And JR was driving Carmelo's car when this incident happened. In 2000, in the same year, that was in February of 07, June of 07, Smith again. That's when his SUV, ran a stop sign and collided with another car, flipped over. He wasn't seriously hurt, but his friend Andre Bell died 2 days later from the head injuries sustained from the wreck. He had from April 2005 to January 10th, 2006, he had 8 violations on 7 dates. 5 of the citations were for speeding, and his license was technically in good standings at that time when the crash went down. For the fallout of the accident, 90-day jail sentence, who avoided serious felony charges, he did 24 days of jail time, agreed to perform 500 hours of community service, and was suspended for 7 games in the NBA. Wow. So he came back and he wouldn't serve his jail sentence until 2009. So in the meantime, he kept up his old habits of bad decisions. And just months after just killing somebody in a car accident, he gets in a fight in a Denver nightclub. So the Nuggets suspend him for 3 games. So right back on hot water again on Twitter this time. A few of his tweets, because the NBA is watching him. He's on the NBA's player to watch list. The NBA has a list of troublemakers for the league that they have people look for and monitor to try to keep them in line. And he was already in the red. So in 2009, he was released from jail. He hopped on Twitter and got right back in the hot water. And some of his followers noticed he was replacing his C's with K's, mostly what the blood gangs do. And they say Smith probably made some new friends during his week in the slammer. So the NBA didn't like it one bit, and he had to shut down his account on Twitter for a while. The NBA fined him $25,000 for posting a picture of Tahiri, who he was dating at the time, when he put a photo up on her, put it on Twitter. And the NBA didn't like that. So, like I tell you, so many of these secrets you didn't even know that was going on about what happened. Now, remember Meek Mill got arrested for the motor scooter incident? Miami police spotted J.R. Smith in South Beach, and what was that, May of 2012. But it's not the first time they seen him. They saw him riding a motor scooter in the area a year prior. They cited him for driving the scooter without a license. But naturally, Smith failed to appear in court. A bench warrant was issued, and the cops took him in, and he was released on bond. Okay? He starts telling his chick or some young underage fan that was on his social media account that was she looking for the pipe by coming to the game. And this is when he was with Cleveland or the Knicks. It might have been his last year with the Knicks. But y'all remember that. The NBA still had him on that list. After a 5-game suspension in 2013 for the substance abuse policy for marijuana, and he was out the Knicks rotation. They ended up cutting a deal to get him out of there. Knicks was, because they said he was a headache and a problem. They ended up cutting him out and getting him out to Cleveland. Anybody that would take JR off their hands. So with LeBron saying like, I could fix anything, I'm LeBron James. That's basically how it went down. He's been under LeBron's tutelage, but I think now even he wants to get rid of him. That's just how it goes. But I've talked y'all ear off more than enough. It's a lot of stuff you didn't know about. An NBA player, it's not even NBA, my fault. NFL player has a baby with a ex-wife of a NHL player, and they get into an altercation because the player played for the Rams at the time, and the other player played for the Los Angeles Kings. And his wife they ended up having a LA squabble down, and he ended up having a kid, with his ex-wife. And the thing is, I think they were separated at the time, and she got pregnant, and I don't know if the divorce was final, but it led to a big melee at the time, and this is back in the early 80s. And she, left her husband for one big black football player for the Rams. She was into her interracial thing. So she wanted to see what the talk was about. And next thing you know, she was out the door. She didn't look back. So that happened. The NFL covered that up very well and kept it out of the press. Thank God it was no social media. Now, that should do it. There's a plenty more, but right now we just wrap this up. I'm out.